My long-distance girlfriend sent me something that made me cry. A little background about me: I live somewhere in Europe. Sorry if my English is not perfect, it's not my first language. I have a very unsuccessful dating life and an unfortunate series of relationships that left me a bit hopeless for a partner in life. I've been single for a long time. Even if I'm in a relationship, it feels so one-sided. Before giving up on dating apps and uninstalling them, I saw this profile from a woman in Asia and she's literally perfect. We have the same interests and sense of humor. Reading her profile made me chuckle a lot and I thought she was a bot at first, but seeing how well she wrote her profile with details about herself and putting what she wanted in a relationship, she wants a serious long-term relationship like me, I swiped right on her. I felt it wasn't enough and I knew I'd be in a sea of men wanting her, so I went for it, and I regret using that free super swipe on someone, so paid for another super swipe / super favorite whatever to just be in front of the line, and so she'll be notified by it. I sent an intro and felt it's lackluster. I thought I blew my chances. After a few days of waiting, she responded. She would be busy with her work, so it took her days to reply. I really thought I was ghosted, but she offered to move to another messaging app so we could communicate better. After a few months of talking and really feeling a great connection, we're in a relationship, dating each other through video calls, having Zoom dinner dates, and FaceTiming when we're just doing our individual things. Because of this, I asked for her address so I could send her some goodies from my country. She was surprised with the package and was so grateful about it, knowing the childhood snacks I love and such. Because of her country being so strict about giving tourist visas, she couldn't visit me even if I offered to pay for it. I couldn't just travel to her because of my senior position at work. So we compromised and have been in a long-distance relationship for almost a year now. To my surprise, I received a package at work that came from her. She said she used the address from the package I sent her. I literally didn't expect this because it's expensive for her to send something from her home country to mine. I got home and immediately messaged her about it. We had a video call while I was unboxing it and it's full of snacks and candies she loves. Also a personal message from her, but on top of it all, she sent me a plushie and a keychain of a character that I told her I found cute. It's Kirby. I shared with her that I had a stuffed toy Kirby as a kid that was given to me by my grandma and held onto it until she passed away. That plushie unfortunately burned our old house during a fire incident and it devastated me. This keychain was funny because it's Kirby with muscles. You can Google the drawing. She laughed while I was bizarrely looking at it and said it reminded her of me because I'm weightlifting. She also sprayed the small plushie of Kirby with her perfume and said, so I could be with you even if I'm far away. As the night sets in and our video call ended, I put the keychain on my work bag and the plushie next to me in bed as I fell asleep. I woke up with that small plushie being crushed under my neck and I instinctively apologized to it. I know, it's dumb, and placed it on my nightstand, fixed my bed and got ready for work. As I was about to get my work bag, I saw the keychain. I don't know why, but it made me teary-eyed that turned into a full-on sob. I cried for a good hour as this wave of emotion suddenly crashed onto me out of nowhere. I never felt this cared for in a relationship with my previous girlfriends. This woman, 1,000 miles away from me, sent me a silly care package, her words, not mine, and included something that's very sentimental for me, which is a stupid Nintendo character. God, I love this woman so much. I told her that I would marry her and make her the happiest woman alive, and she would brush it aside and laugh at it. I told her I'm serious about her and I know she was hurt from her previous relationships as well and she's just being cautious. I was late for work that day, but I didn't care. I was crying and laughing at the same time. A grown man like me that's always being avoided by people because I'm like a gentle giant who cries like a baby because of this woman caring for me. I plan to surprise her on her birthday and visit her in person. I'm holding back not to propose to her as soon as I see her, but I love her so much and she felt the same for me as well. I'm already holding back saying I love you to her, but she already said it to me, because I want to tell her in person. We're serious with each other and we feel we're each other's soulmate. I'm never gonna let her go. I love her so much. My entitled stepdaughter sold my family heirloom jacket behind my back, so I sold her birthday present and made her cry. Although my wife and I have a mostly beautiful relationship, there is one topic we have never seen eye to eye on, and that's my stepdaughter Lacey. I have tried bonding with her and getting closer to her. But this has never worked, however, as Lacey's mother has raised her in such a spoiled manner, that Lacey is now an entitled teenager who demands everything goes her way and refuses to take no for an answer. She has been suspended from school for bullying a much poorer kid in her class previously. When I pressed her about it and tried to explain how wrong it was to verbally ridicule him in front of the whole class, she literally refused to accept that she was in the wrong. Her mother then stepped in defending her, telling me, "You're not her dad, don't act like it." She then proceeded to take Lacey upstairs and they had a talk, but I'm not sure about what. All I know is Lacey is yet to admit that she was in the wrong. This is just one example of her entitlement. She is now 16 years old and seems to get more spoiled every year. I have tried carefully broaching this subject with her mother, but I seem to get shot down every time. This behavior has definitely strained my relationship with Lacey. Well, my relationship with her, which was already not as good as it could be, went completely south last week. So last week was her birthday, and her mother and I got her the latest iPhone like she wanted. I got a lukewarm thanks off her, and her mother and her went to celebrate by themselves for the entire day. This kind of hurt. I was the one who paid for that iPhone and I get excluded. But that wasn't the real kicker. The real kicker happened when they came home in the evening. They both sat me down and went on to explain that they needed to talk with me. My wife opened up by saying she feels that I'm being way too cheap in regards to my allowance with Lacey. She said that the $75 a week that I give her was way too little for someone of her age and that I can definitely afford to double her allowance. I asked Lacey if she was willing to do chores around the house or cook dinner every now and then for her mother and I in order to increase her allowance, and Lacey said no. She shouldn't have to. She should simply get the higher allowance because she is 16 now. I told her that's not how the world works, and that's when her mother jumped in, giving out to me and literally claiming that this is proof I don't care about Lacey. I got mad at that, so I asked Lacey, "Who do you think bought you that new phone?" And she replied, "It was my birthday, that's the bare minimum." I responded, "You know my parents were dirt poor and we didn't celebrate birthdays. The only thing they gave me was a roof over my head and something to eat before bed each night. That's the bare minimum." She then responded saying my parents should have tried harder in life. I saw red, and I was about to verbally go off on them both, but I restrained myself and told them I was going upstairs. While leaving, my wife tried to ask me about the allowance, and I yelled that the answer was no. I feel bad for yelling, but I was so angry in the moment. That all happened last week, and for the next few days the atmosphere in the house was very tense. My wife and Lacey did not talk to me much, and vice versa. Well, this morning I woke up and I felt a compelling urge to go to a Christmas market as they had just opened up. I love going to these things, Lacey and my wife do not, so I figured I would go by myself. I got ready and went to put on my jacket. A jacket I only wear during the winter time and very rarely. A jacket passed down to me by my father, a jacket that is 5 generations old. It is made with high-quality materials, real fur and leather, absolutely enormous. It probably has a market value of around $900 $1,000, but to me it is priceless. After spending a lot of time trying to find this jacket and being unable to, I decided to ask my wife if she had seen it. My wife reluctantly said no at first, but she hesitated before answering. I asked her again, she hesitated again and said no, then immediately tried changing the subject. Something was fishy here, so I kept pressing. She finally cracked when I threatened to go leave the house for a few days. She admitted that Lacey, being furious with me after I told her no to her allowance request, decided to sell my jacket and keep the money. I went blind with rage. I asked her first where she sold it, and my wife told me she sold it online and through where. I was irate. I went upstairs to where Lucy was sleeping, but I had no intention of waking her up. I simply took the new phone I got her and put it in my pocket. I then went downstairs to my wife, who kept begging for me not to punish Lucy. I told her not to worry and that I'm not going to DOD anything, and told her I'm heading to the market to clear my head and enjoy my day. And enjoy my day I did. I headed out alone and pawned her new iPhone. I got just over $500 for it, way less than I paid, but I did not care. I then spent the entire 500 big ones on a day to myself. I bought stuff at the markets, I went to a Michelin star restaurant, I went to a spa. I had a great day and came home with $11. Throughout this whole day I kept getting angry messages and calls from Lacey and my wife asking where her phone was, and I told them not to worry. I'll explain everything when I get home. So when I got home I was greeted with them yelling at me, and especially Lacey, demanding I give her the phone back. I wish you all could see the look on her face when I told her I pawned it. Priceless. Truly priceless. Her mother started screaming, of course, that I'm a selfish a-hole for doing this. I told them both that this is what they get for selling something priceless to me behind my back. Lacey kept yelling at me that it was just a stupid jacket. I reminded Lacey that things can hold more value to them than their price tag, and she got even more mad. Then I told her that I will also be taking the money she got for selling my jacket and keeping it to myself. She started to cry when I said that and ran upstairs. By this point, her mother washed quiet and was sitting at the kitchen table. After Lacey bolted up in tears, I sat down with my wife and we had a long and painful talk. She admitted that what Lacey did was wrong, and she admitted that she spent years parenting her the wrong way. I asked her what she wanted to do and she said we must have a serious talk with Lacey, and I agreed. Lacey has been upstairs the whole evening, and my wife and I plan to talk to her tomorrow. My transphobic mother refuses to accept my brother's transition, so we're getting her fired. My brother came out as a female to male transgender about a year ago and I have done nothing but been supportive of it. My ex-best friend's cousin came out as transgender a few years and the backlash she received for it drove her to suicide. I have seen firsthand how important it is to support people when the transition and how severe consequences can be, so I have done all I can to make sure my brother knows I still love him the same. But that is not Ray's case for our mother. She comes from a deeply religious background, and her views are very outdated, and since my brother came out she has done nothing but shown blatant transphobia. She still calls my brother a she, dead names him all the time, refusing to accept any part of his true identity. She has called him an abomination many times, and I can hear her praying for my brother every night, wishing for him to stop falling for this brainwashing and Satanism. It honestly makes me very sad, how a mother can be so blinded by religion and black and white thinking that she won't accept her son because she does not agree with him. Whenever our mother sees him wearing more masculine clothing, she freaks out, throws a hissy fit, so on and so on. Living with her has been hell, but considering I am 17 and my brother is 16, we have to stay here. We do not know where our father is, and do not have any relatives over here in the UK. So we are stuck living with her. A few days ago, stuff really hit the fan and our mother went absolutely irate on us. My brother and I have been talking for a long time, and he has decided that when he turns 18 he wants to get bottom surgery. I was all for this, I believe in living your truth, and I let him know that no matter what anyone at all has to say about this I will be in his corner. We also talked about it, and although we decided not to tell our mother at first, we ended up realizing it may be the right thing to do. We decided that we will tell her that this is my brother's truth, and once he turns 18 he will live it, we will bring it up at dinner time. The next night we sat down to eat. My mother started dead-naming him, of course, asking when he was going to get over this phase. That's when I looked at my brother and nodded to him, giving him the go-ahead to say it. My brother then spoke up. About that, he started off. I have been doing a lot of thinking. And I am realizing that this is ultimately my truth. I am a man, Mom, whether you accept it or not. I am 16 now, and in 2 years I will be getting bottom surgery. There is nobody in the world that can convince me otherwise. Realize that you are against this, I really do, but please Mom, I am your son. I want to do anything to get accepted by you, but living my life miserable in order to have your acceptance is not something I am willing to do. Accept this decision, please. His speech to her was beautiful. It was very emotional. We both waited to see my mother's reaction, and she just rolled her eyes and shook her head. Without saying a word, she left the dinner table and went upstairs, locked herself in the bathroom and started crying. My brother and I quietly talked about it, but before we could finish the conversation, our mother came storming down and yelling that no child of hers will go against God, no child of hers will be a freak. She was just saying these horrible things to my brother. She then turned her attention on me. She then yelled at me for permitting this and telling my brother that what he is doing is okay, when in reality I should be telling him he is mentally ill and should check himself in the mental hospital. I got very mad when I heard this, and I yelled back saying she was the mentally ill one if she will let her son's gender determine whether she has love for him or not. She slapped me for raising my voice, and then slapped me again. I did not fight back. I am a 17-year-old male and this is my mother. No matter what she does, it would be cowardice of me to raise my hands against her. She kept slapping me over and over for raising my voice, and by the end I was heavily bruised in my face. After she was done, she went upstairs. My brother rushed over to me as he stayed seated the whole time, only because I told him to, and he made sure I was okay. He told me we need to take pictures of my face as proof that our mother is abusive. I was reluctant at first and asked him what the pictures were even going to do. He said that we could use it to report her to authorities or her job. I was reluctant at first, but then my brother said something that made me think. Our mother works at a children's hospital. Do you think it is safe to have a woman like that care for children? He made a very good point. Our mother was far from an employee with an impressive track record too. She was basically hanging on by a thread in the hospital as she has done many irresponsible things on the job in the past. So, we took pictures of my face, which was so heavily bruised that my entire cheek was purple. My eyebrow was wounded too as my mother used the cross she had to land a blow with the edge of it to my eyebrow. We took pictures of it all. I then proceeded to ask my brother what good would getting my mother thrown out of the job to, since we would not have a place to stay. He said he had that taken care of. He contacted his best friend the night before and informed his best friend that he was going to tell his mother about wanting bottom surgery, and if stuff goes very downhill he asked if he and I could stay at the best friend's place until I find a job and an apartment. I hugged my brother at that moment. So it's now a few days later and we plan to send the pictures my brother and I have to her boss while she is at work tomorrow. We have no interest in pressing charges, but we do believe that she can be a danger to children. We have even spent the last few days audio recording her angry outbursts, which she is almost daily, and we will send those too. My lying wife had a multiple-year-long affair and the lawyer told me I would lose everything if I divorced her. So I spent years perfecting my payback. My revenge began by discovering my wife Carrie's infidelity after 14 years of marriage and 3 kids. I saw a text appear on her work phone for just a few seconds that would forever change my life. It was a message that was sexually graphic and had no business being on anyone's work phone. It was on the lock screen and the sender's name, Perry, was visible. The world stopped around me. I just froze. My first thoughts were, what the hell was that about? It's her work phone. That kind of message gets people fired. Then it hit me. Was Carrie having an affair? It's amazing how the brain works. I suddenly started remembering a lot of things Carrie had done that seemed odd, but I'd either dismissed them myself or immediately accepted her explanation. She was always walking out of the room to answer a call or return a text and claimed that it would violate HIPAA. She was a nurse, if I overheard her talking about a patient. I accepted this because education has similar privacy laws regarding students. I'm a district school admin. She would sometimes come home with the faint smell of cologne on her clothes and claimed it was from helping to move male patients. Again, I accepted this at face value, but it always struck me as odd how it seemed to have the same scent of cologne. Once the proverbial barn door was open, I started seeing a lot of things that I'd missed before. Our love life in the bedroom had cooled off considerably, which wasn't helped by her having to leave the house at odd hours to fill in for other nurses that called in sick. I also recalled where I'd seen the name Perry before, and a call to the hospital confirmed he was a doctor there. For the next week or so, I was walking around in daze trying to put all of the pieces together. One of our kids had left a book in Carrie's car, so it was an excuse to visit the hospital. My kid went up to get Carrie's car key. I talked to a nurse in the lobby and joked about how work phones seem like a blessing, but all they do is put you on call 24 hours a day. This led to her eventually telling me that the hospital was too cheap to give cell phones to nurses, so only high-level executives got them, which didn't include Carrie. With pretty much everything confirmed, I took some personal time off the next day to talk to a divorce lawyer. The news she gave me was horrible. We lived in a community property state with no-fault divorce. I made more money than Carrie, she'd been the primary caretaker of the kids, and we'd been married for more than 10 years. Basically, if I filed for divorce, I'd be screwed. Lose the house, pay alimony, she'd get a huge chunk of my retirement, and I'd pay child support for the next decade unless I was lucky enough to be awarded joint custody. The worst thing she told me was that it didn't matter that she cheated. It didn't matter. I was crushed. There was only one person I could trust with this kind of information. She was a fellow teacher that had also made the jump to administration, but was stuck at a school site. Let's call her Anne. Anne had been married at 19, but her marriage was annulled when her husband got some other woman pregnant. Since then, she'd focused on her career and we'd found we were kindred spirits in a lot of ways regarding K-12 education. I talked to Anne. She said something to me that changed my whole mindset. If you don't like the hand you're dealt, change the deck. I realized I had two problems. I made more money than Carrie and she had more time than me to be the primary caretaker of the kids. The second issue was actually kind of easy. At every district office, there are jobs that are fast tracks to higher positions and there are jobs that administrators suffer through. One of these dead-end regulatory positions was open again. I sat down with our district superintendent and asked about being transferred to that position. At first he was shocked, but I told him that it was my time to take one for the team and it would fill a hole in my admin experience. He agreed. It was really just crunching numbers with no personnel or student interaction so I could set my schedule, even take a laptop home and work there. With my new free time, I began taking the kids to school, picking them up from school, and taking them home. I'd help them with their homework, make dinner, etc. while the end goal was to become their primary caretaker. I can't explain how much I really enjoyed taking a more active role in their day-to-day lives. My salary hadn't been reduced, so I needed to find a way for Carrie to make a lot more money than she was in current nursing position. I remembered Carrie being mad that her supervisor told her in the future, bachelor degrees will be worthless and everyone will need at least a master's degree. Carrie had worked hard to get her bachelor's and that supervisor's comment peed all over her hard work. I talked her into starting a master's program. I told her that since I had a much more flexible work schedule, I would keep taking care of the kids. She was reluctant at first, then I said, you could have every evening free to study or go to class, whatever you want to do. I saw her eyes immediately light up, probably thinking that she could spend more time with Perry. To make sure she was actually completing her master's courses, I paid her tuition and fees directly to her university. It was going to take her between 2 and 3 years to finish. Those years were rough at times. I could tell every time she was rushing off or coming back from seeing Perry. There was an excitement or sense of satisfaction in her eyes that just wasn't there when she was doing her coursework. I had to either smile or pretend I didn't notice. My temper got short at times and I found myself in arguments over petty nonsense. A couple of times I almost blew the whole charade, having to bite my tongue and apologize rather than scream insults at her that she deserved. Anne remained my confidant through all of this. I'd recommended her for my previous fast-track position and she joined me at the district office. Anne was qualified, hardworking, ambitious and only needed her foot in the door to impress the higher-ups. I even got a few pats on the back for recommending her after she impressed everyone. Anne and I started our own affair. It wasn't some hot-blooded, passionate romance, but two friends giving each other what they need. Without Anne, I wouldn't have been able to maintain the charade of being the oblivious cuckold. But when Carrie would come home smiling after spending time with Perry, I was able to bear it, smiling back because I had my own lover. After 3.5 years, Carrie completed her master's and was promoted at her hospital. Her salary went up substantially and was now higher than mine. When the kids and I made her a congratulations dinner, I made a joke about her being the breadwinner for the family and she laughed, joking back I should be a stay-at-home dad now. A month later, I went back to the lawyer and told her the financial situation had drastically changed. With these new facts, she drafted the petition and filed it. When the kids were with my mother, I had Carrie served. The deputy knocked on our front door and I let him in, pointing at my wife. He asked her name and then handed her a copy of the divorce petition. With the deputy standing there, I told Carrie I knew all about her affair with Perry. I told her to go be happy with her doctor lover. She screamed at me, tried to lie, and then made the mistake of rushing toward me. The deputy stopped her and warned her that women go to jail for domestic violence too. He suggested she pack a bag to stay somewhere else. Carrie left after I promised not to tell the kids about her affair. I didn't tell the kids. But I told my mother, who told my sister, who told her kids, who told their cousins, my kids. It took a few days, but eventually the kids knew that Dad was divorcing Mom because she had a boyfriend. In the end, the court granted the divorce, giving me primary custody of our kids. Because I was already their primary caretaker, I kept the house with the promise I'd refinance to buy out Carrie's half. She was ordered to pay child support, and I used that fact to negotiate with her to give up any rights to my retirement if I bought her out. I was able to refinance my home, and with a little money borrowed from my parents, I bought our Carrie's community property interest in the home and in my retirement. The day she signed all the paperwork with my lawyer finally ending any possible financial obligations to her was the happiest I'd been. I felt like I could finally breathe. I celebrated with Anne, who'd been my rock through all of it. I'm not ashamed to say that through the years I'd cried many times in her arms. Anne and I would eventually marry. She got promoted to a higher position and I was convinced to take back my previous position at the district when my youngest child reached high school. Carrie and I got along well after the divorce. We took the kids to family therapy and worked out this co-parenting thing. For a few months, she took a beating from the kids about why she needed a boyfriend when Daddy was there all along. Between the kids and the therapist raking her over the coals, I didn't have to say anything at all. Carrie missed a lot of time with the kids because of her now legitimately busy work schedule, and I actually felt bad that my kids were missing time with their mother, so encouraged them to talk to her on the phone instead. When Carrie found out that I'd proposed to Anne, she congratulated me. I told her it's okay for her to marry Perry too. She got sad. She told me that Perry had started seeing another woman, a younger nurse at the hospital, because with her new position, she didn't have time for him, and when they did get together, she wasn't fun anymore. My ex-wife, the woman who'd cheated on me and destroyed our marriage, was looking to me for sympathy. I had none to give. What I had was years of anger and frustration. Years of knowing some other man was sleeping with my wife. I'd lost weight from not being able to eat, I'd suffered hypertension and had to confide in my doctor why it wasn't the stress of my job. I had to listen to my dentist complain about how I was grinding and listening to him tell me I'd need dental implants if it kept up. There were times when I had to be intimate with Carrie to keep up the charade, only to lie that I wanted to use rubbers to remind us how we used to have intimacy when we were dating or because I might have a bladder infection, then go take a test anyway and wait for the results before seeing Ann again. But in the end, it was all worth it. My vegan girlfriend is freaking out because I pranked her by feeding her chicken nuggets and now she's threatening to break up with me. My girlfriend is an avid vegan who deeply loves animals and is set in stone in her ways, which are kinda stupid in my opinion. She grew up on a farm, and when she was young she would form attachments to animals only to watch them get unalived and their meat sold. She told me the story of a cow she named Mooey, who she formed a bond with and who would get excited every time he saw her, only for Mooey to be unalived. This left a huge mark in my girlfriend's mind and it is something that has forever stayed with her. My girlfriend has been vegan for a really long time. However, unlike some vegans she has no problems with me being non-vegan. There is one problem we do have in our relationship however, and that is me pulling pranks on her. Pranks which she does not necessarily find funny at times, but pranks that are mostly harmless. The most extreme prank I have ever played on her is a S-aside prank. Looking back I realized this was way too far and not something I should have done, and she had every right to be as mad as she was. Nonetheless we managed to get over it. Well, a few weeks ago I mentioned to her that I was not sure that she should keep being vegan due to a potential lack of protein in her diet. She told me there was no need to worry as she was supplementing vegan protein powder, and this set off an argument when I claimed vegan protein powder is not real food. She retorted back saying that she just cannot bring herself to eat meat or any animal products, and that protein powder will have to do. I then sarcastically remarked that she should just try chicken once and when she realizes how tasty they are, she'll never be vegan again. She got quite mad this remark of mine, claiming she would never go out of her way to unalive and eat a harmless chicken. I then made the joke, well if God didn't want me to eat chickens, why did he make them so tasty? She was visibly annoyed at this remark of mine and we did not speak much for the rest of the day. I tried to initiate conversation the next day but she was rather silent again. I ended up apologizing however and she accepted my apology. I tried to explain to her that the only reason I made the jokes that I did the last day was because of my nature as a prankster and that I love to rile people up. It's my personal sense of humor. She told me to just let it go and accept the fact that she is vegan. I told her I would and we went on with our lives. That was until last night, that is, when I got hit with the random urge to prank her. I sometimes get random urges to pull pranks on her. I can't explain it but I can imagine this is what an addict feels like when he has gone without a hit for too long. There's just something in me that tells me to pull a prank. So that's what I did last night. My girlfriend was going to have vegan chicken nuggets for dinner, and I saw this as a perfect opportunity. I headed out to the store alone to pick some real nuggets up then headed home. When I got home I told her not to worry about dinner and that I would put the food on. When the nuggets were ready, I placed my real nuggets onto a plate, her also real nuggets onto a plate, then brought them out and served it to her. I could barely hold in my laughter when she said, "Thank you." I watched her eat one, then two, then on the third nugget she told me that these taste a little weird. I shrugged in response. She ate the third one then put her plate down, telling me that there is something different about these nuggets. That's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. I started laughing, and she stared at me confused. That's when I told her that she had just been pranked. That these are undeniably 100% real chicken nuggets. I even took it one step further and went into the kitchen to show her the fully sealed and unopened pack of vegan chicken nuggets. I expected her to be mad, but what I did not expect was for her to cry. That was her reaction. Also, instead of speaking to me, like a normal person with an issue, she bolted upstairs and locked herself in the bedroom where I could hear her crying for almost a full hour. That annoyed me. I understand that what I did may have been wrong, but there is no reason she cannot communicate with me like a proper adult. When she left the bedroom I told her I would like to apologize to her and she told me to save it, then mentioned that she's seriously thinking of breaking up with me. She said that my pranks have gone on for too long, and pranking her with something like this was another instance of me crossing a hard boundary. She refused to speak to me all night, and has not spoken today much either.